Chapter 91, Ravage the Red Giant, please order first. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After he was freed, the Red Giant was consumed by raw, unending rage. The relentless torture he'd endured during his transformation had turned him into a pure killing machine. He was ready to obliterate anything in his path. Of course, thanks to the chip implanted in his brain, his primary target was the white demon hovering in the air, Su-Mu. The arc reactors inside the Red Giant's body pulsed violently, unleashing a torrent of energy. Dozens of reactors working in unison pumped out massive power, which, combined with cosmic and gamma rays, gave him superhuman strength. His leg muscles coiled, he suddenly exploded forward, charging straight at Su-Mu. As he lunged, his body underwent a dramatic shift, erupting in flames. The amplified energy turned him into a fiery god of war. This was a twisted version of Sunspot's mutant ability, supercharged by the arc reactors, cosmic energy, and gamma radiation. The power levels had skyrocketed tenfold. Facing the Red Giant head-on, Su-Mu was eager to see what his own strength could do now that his energy absorption had reached level 5. The two titans collided in midair. Boom. Boom. Boom, blinding thunder ripped through the sky as black, red and crimson lightning clashed, obliterating everything within a several-mile radius. The shock waves blasted outwards, deepening the existing ruins by several meters and creating hurricane-force winds that impacted the environment for hundreds of miles. In the closest town, people stared in awe and terror at the black, red and crimson lightning flashing above, convinced they were witnessing a battle between gods. At the epicenter of the collision, a red figure was hurled through the turbulent energy and slammed into the ground, leaving a crater that spanned tens of meters. In one swift blow, the Red Giant had been thrown aside. The arm he'd used to block Su-Mu's attack was shattered, spraying golden, radioactive blood. But with a regenerative ability that rivaled even Wolverine's, the Red Giant's damaged body quickly healed, and he lunged at Su-Mu again. That brief encounter gave Su-Mu all he needed. His 6 eyes analyzed the Red Giant's powers. First, he possessed strength far exceeding the Hulk's, and he could absorb energy to continuously boost his physical capabilities, shrouding himself in energy flames that burned anything nearby. Second, he had abilities similar to a Sentinel robot. He could adapt to his opponents and his environment, using multiple mutant powers. Finally, thanks to the dozens of arc reactors grafted into his body, he could burn through their power in a short burst, granting him a huge boost that amplified both of his abilities, making him a true Superman. Even more significant, Su-Mu detected technology from the Eternals. These had to be the items Colonel Stryker had sought when he'd contacted them. Now, these modifications were fused to the Red Giant's adamantium skeleton, making it virtually indestructible. This was a man-made monster, even more dangerous than the Hulk or the Eternals. But instead of fear, Su-Mu felt excitement. This powerful creature would let him showcase the true potential of his level 5 energy absorption. White wings unfurled behind Su-Mu, the red and black energy currents crackling around him, giving him the appearance of a god or a demon. The white wings granted him another surge of power. As the Red Giant charged, Su-Mu channeled the red and black lightning and slammed it into the Red Giant's head. Even as the Red Giant instantly transformed into a being of living steel, Su-Mu effortlessly crushed his skull. The steel, second only to adamantium, was obliterated. Without pausing, Su-Mu placed his hand on the Red Giant's chest, unleashing a red and white singularity at point-blank range. The next instant, the Red Giant was blasted away at hundreds of times the speed of sound, crashing to the ground and carving a trench tens of kilometers long. Su-Mu was becoming increasingly excited. This was one durable punching bag. He was loving it. He ignored the 4 strikers trying to escape. With his portal at level 4, they couldn't escape him, even to another dimension. Su-Mu took a step. His level 4 Tsang technique warped space, folding the space between them, and he appeared instantly where the Red Giant had landed. The Red Giant's chest was completely shattered. Even his reinforced bones couldn't withstand the red and white singularity. Before the wound could fully heal, Sumu reached out. His enhanced body, already beyond human limitations, and further boosted with energy, exceeded mortal comprehension. He plunged his hand into the red giant's chest and ripped it open. The adamantium skeleton, incorporating eternal technology, was torn free. Hot, golden blood splattered across Sumu's chest, but it was instantly vaporized by the black and red lightning surrounding him. Tossing the adamantium skeleton aside, Sumu began to dismantle the red giant's body. He stepped on the red giant's chest. The creature struggled, unleashing a force that shattered everything within miles, but he couldn't escape the grip of the seemingly frail, white-haired figure above him. With a slight increase in pressure, Sumu crushed the red giant's thigh, then grabbed the leg and ripped it from its socket with a sickening crack. The bones regenerated, but were instantly shattered again, repeating the cycle endlessly. Between the agonizing pain and the psychological torment, even the red giant, whose consciousness had been wiped out by the experiment, was instinctively afraid. He fought desperately to break free, but the restraints were too strong. After his experiments, Sumu knew his own strength. In this form, his raw power was enough to dominate Thanos. Finally, Sumu decided to test his last ability. He stepped back, releasing the red giant. Seeing his chance, the red giant scrambled to his feet, his newly formed legs shattering the bedrock as he leaped away, reaching supersonic speeds in an instant. But the moment he crossed the 20-meter radius around Sumu, countless strands of energy snaked out, solidifying into chains that ensnared him. The once invincible red giant couldn't even break a single chain, and he was completely bound. Even more terrifying, the seemingly endless energy inside him was draining away at an alarming rate, devoured by an unknown vortex. P.S. Red Giant. Chapter 92 Kill the Fantastic Four. Please pre-order. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Energy absorption kept sucking in the surrounding energy. Sumu became a terrifying energy vortex, turning the area within a 20-meter radius into a complete energy void. Even molecular movement nearly stopped, and the temperature plummeted, instantly approaching absolute zero. Everything around shattered from the extreme cold, but two figures remained standing in the absolute zero environment. One was Sumu, the source of it all. He could control energy flow and even defy physics to force energy to flow from low to high, so he was unaffected. The other was Red Giant, who, unlike Sumu, was barely holding on with the massive energy reserves within him. But as time passed, his energy was rapidly depleted, and even the light from the dozens of arc reactors on his surface dimmed. The system prompts kept flashing, energy point +1, energy point +1, energy point +1. Simultaneously, Red Giant's muscles atrophied, and the seemingly endless energy within him vanished rapidly. In mere seconds, his energy was completely gone. His body, once radiating intense heat, grew cold, reaching the absolute zero of the surrounding environment. Sensing the power of energy absorption, Sumu smiled, satisfied. He took another step and appeared above the military base. Red Giant's body instantly disintegrated on the ruins with a passing breeze. Above the military base, Sumu used his 6 eyes to pinpoint Stryker's location. Through his vision, Stryker and his team were heading towards a vortex portal. Sumu recognized a familiar energy signature, the parallel universe he sensed after upgrading the portal to level 4. Clearly, Stryker and the others were trying to escape to a parallel universe. In the past, he might have let them get away, but now he could travel between universes. Even if Stryker fled to another reality, he couldn't escape his fate. His white wings fluttered, and Sumu instantly appeared in the room protected by a space shield. A flash of purple, and a small imaginary dagger materialized in his hand. With a few swift movements, he shattered the space shield and destroyed the adamantium wall behind it. The sound of the wall collapsing alerted Mr. Fantastic and the others, but they didn't panic. Another shield protected them. This shield worked on the same principle as the matter decomposition lightsaber, breaking down nearby substances. It consumed a huge amount of energy, requiring an arc reactor every 3 seconds, but it bought them the time they needed to escape. Finally, Sumu confronted Colonel Stryker, the man who had been chasing him since he arrived in this world. Stryker glared at White Devil, hatred burning in his eyes. Because of White Devil, the mutants he spent his life suppressing were rising again. The government, intimidated by White Devil, hesitated to continue suppressing them and instead announced a treaty to liberate mutants. His life's work was crumbling. His position within the government was also declining. Several failed operations eroded the trust of his superiors. If it weren't for a mysterious organization funding him, he would have run out of research money. He glared at Sumu, gritting his teeth. White Devil, just wait. Our next meeting will be your last. Sumu simply chuckled, ignoring Stryker's threat. Mr. Fantastic looked at Sumu, his expression serious. White Devil, you are an extremely volatile element, with a power ceiling that threatens the entire multiverse. I will eliminate you the next time we meet. Sumu remained silent, only asking, are you sure you can escape? Mr. Fantastic smiled confidently. With your current power, you can't travel to parallel universes. And even if you could later, how would you ever find us among countless universes? Mr. Fantastic was clearly confident. He felt he had finally outsmarted White Devil. We'll meet again. He declared. Then, he and Stryker stepped into the parallel world jump device and vanished. The external shield deactivated at the same moment. Watching the four disappear, Sumu calmly used his powers to obliterate everything within a kilometer radius, destroying the remaining space disruption devices. He then opened a portal, looking at Mr. Fantastic, who stared back in disbelief, and smiled. Dr. Reed, we meet again. You. Mr. Fantastic looked stunned. Even with his intellect, he couldn't understand how Sumu could easily travel to a parallel universe, or how he had tracked them down. Though he didn't understand, he knew what he had to do. He shouted to the three figures waiting for him in the distance, run. Those three were the other members of the Fantastic Four. Reed had anticipated his possible failure and teleported them to other universes to protect them from White Devil, but he hadn't expected White Devil to travel between universes. As Reed shouted, he realized that Invisible Woman and the others had vanished from where they were. A horrifying realization hit him. He turned, trembling, to look at White Devil and saw three more figures standing beside him, 3 copies of Invisible Woman. The Invisible Women struggled against a powerful distortion field, but their abilities were insignificant compared to Sumu's power. Sumu grabbed Invisible Woman by the neck and lifted her. Ignoring the shouts of Stone Man and Human Torch, he smiled at Mr. Fantastic. I believe the troublesome Mr. Fantastic poses a threat to the multiverse, so I sentenced the entire Fantastic Four to death. He channeled massive energy into Invisible Woman's body, and energy veins spread from her neck throughout her entire body. No. Before Mr. Fantastic's eyes, Invisible Woman exploded like a bomb, and the flames engulfed Human Torch and Stone Man. I'll kill you. I'll kill you. Seeing his girlfriend and 2 closest friends die, Mr. Fantastic lost control, roaring madly. He knew Sumu was still alive. Sure enough, Sumu emerged from the flames, unscathed. He looked at Mr. Fantastic and smiled disdainfully. You won't get the chance. Countless spatial slashes tore through Mr. Fantastic, and the rubbery body that could withstand any physical attack shattered into long, noodle-like strands. After finishing off Mr. Fantastic, Sumu looked at Colonel Stryker and the other 2, who were hiding in the distance. He said slowly, Mr. Stryker, we meet again. Are you ready? P.S. Fantastic Four. Chapter 93 Kill Stryker. First order please. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Facing the White Devil's gentle smile, Stryker felt his blood turn to ice. The world seemed to lose its color, becoming a surreal dreamscape. How could the White Devil jump between universes? Reed Richards and the others were adamant it was impossible. He shouldn't be able to find them in the vast multiverse. What the hell was going on? This has to be a dream, has to be. The White Devil's oppressive presence, the fear of imminent death, it all swirled in Stryker's mind, finally breaking him. Seeing this, Sumu feigned concern. Mr. Stryker, hold on. I'm going to fix you right up. How boring would it be if Stryker just cracked? Sumu strolled toward Stryker, ready to use his reversal technique to heal him. The level 4 reversal could cure anything, restore anything to its original state, even inanimate objects. Colonel Stryker, with a broken mind, was nothing. As Sumu approached, the two crime lords flanking him silently backed away. Seeing Sumu glance their way, the first crime lord plastered an even more grotesque smile on his already ugly face. "White Devil, please, let me live. I'll work for you." "Yeah, me too." Ivan Vanko chimed in immediately. Sumu paused, considering. "Alright, you're both pretty smart. Having you under my command could be useful." The two brightened. Suddenly, a horrific, repulsive force enveloped the first crime lord, spraying a torrent of green blood that splattered Ivan Vanko, blinding him. Trembling, Ivan Vanko wiped the blood from his eyes, stared at the dead crime lord, and heard the devil's whisper. "Too bad you're so ugly. I can't stand looking at you." Ivan Vanko frantically smoothed his hair, wiped the sticky green blood from his face, and grinned stiffly at Sumu. "I'm not ugly, my lord. I swear." Sumu sized up Ivan Vanko for a long moment, his heart pounding with a mix of excitement and anxiety. "You're kinda ugly." Ivan Vanko tensed. "But you're almost human looking." Ivan Vanko visibly relaxed, wagging his figurative tail at Sumu like a puppy. "Yes, yes. I'll serve you forever." Before he could finish, the same twisted force ripped him apart, a gruesome mix of bright red and green splattering the ground. The devil's voice continued. "Too bad you stepped with your left foot first. I have rules, and you broke one. Time to go." Ignoring the blood and gore, Sumu walked over to Stryker, used reversal to restore his sanity, and smiled brightly at the newly coherent colonel. "We have all the time in the world. Let's take things slow." The screams and the sounds of bones breaking went on for hours, finally fading away. Opening a portal and stepping back into his home universe, Sumu felt a wave of relief wash over him. A thorn in his side since the beginning was finally gone. Back at his Ocean View villa, Sumu collapsed on the bed and drifted off to sleep. On Earth, all his enemies were gone, no one could pose a threat to him anymore. Sumu's anxiety slowly dissipated. For the next few days, Sumu did nothing but train. He was finally getting some much-needed rest. The skills Sumu focused on were vector manipulation and the unknown wings. During his training, Sumu noticed a connection between the two wings. Training the white wing also boosted the black wing's experience. After a moment's thought, Sumu understood why. In the original story, the white wing was the perfect version of the black wing. One was subordinate to the other. Training the superior skill naturally helped the inferior one. After a little over a week, all three skills had improved dramatically. Vector manipulation experience +1. Congratulations! Your vector manipulation skill has leveled up. Vector manipulation LV3, January 3000. Control the direction of all understood vectors and create a hypothetical vector axis. This includes force, speed, acceleration, displacement, impulse, momentum, electric field strength, magnetic induction, etc. Analyze phenomena and understand their true nature. Unknown wings black experience +1. Congratulations! Your unknown wings black skill has leveled up. Unknown wings black LV2, 1/300 manipulate spatial phase force to form black wings, greatly enhancing the user's strength. Unknown wings white experience +1. Congratulations! Your unknown wings white skill has leveled up. Unknown wings white LV2, 1/300 manipulate spatial phase force to form white wings, greatly enhancing the user's strength. Because his energy absorption was level 5, Sumu's precision in energy manipulation had greatly improved, speeding up his skill progression. Sumu mainly focused on vector manipulation. Now at level 3, it could reflect any vector that Sumu understood, and he could analyze anything by observing it. Once he fully grasped something, he could reflect its power. Unlike Accelerator, Sumu didn't just have a computer-like brain, but also the 6 eyes. The 6 eyes allowed Sumu to see the very flow of energy and helped him analyze it, and with his brain power, he could do this far faster than Accelerator. Still, his template fusion was only at 36%, unlocking just 36% of Accelerator's processing power. He couldn't surpass him yet, but he would soon. He levitated 3 infinity stones around his body, constantly emitting energy that Sumu absorbed, boosting his template fusion. Sumu opened a portal to a coastline. He was standing on a volcano, using his 6 eyes to gaze into the lava. The Celestials would be arriving on Earth soon. He needed to prepare a little welcome gift for them before the Eternals got here. And the Celestial growing inside the Earth was the perfect delivery system for that gift. Mystique Changes Roles, Part 3. Chapter 94, Creating a Rudimentary Universe, The Coming of the Gods. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Judging by the remnants of the Eternals' final showdown, it looks like the slumbering Earth gods are about to wake up here. This must be Ground Zero. Sumu's 6-eye vision didn't detect any significant energy signatures nearby, so he dove straight into the magma, heading deep into the Earth's core. The 1000-degree heat didn't faze him. His energy absorption neutralized the heat completely, leaving his clothes untouched. The deeper he went, the greater the pressure, but Sumu maintained his speed. He eventually reached the bottom of the magma, where solid rock awaited. Without slowing down, he generated a purple energy sphere that pulverized the rock in front of him, clearing a path. Suddenly, he stopped. Within his 6-eyed view, a massive humanoid figure pulsed with immense energy, like some mythical titan slumbering within the earth. Scorching energy flowed into the giant god from the Earth's core, being absorbed and used as nourishment for its growth. This was a celestial, gestating in the heart of the planet, leeching its life force. Once fully formed, the planet would be destroyed. Sumu gazed at the nascent god and grinned. He teleported to the being's head and placed his palm on its forehead. Yellow energy lines began to spread from the point of contact. Even a fully formed celestial, a universe-level powerhouse, couldn't completely resist the Mind Stone's influence, let alone an unborn one. Under the Mind Stone's influence, the god's mind was molded, gradually taking on Sumu's form. When the yellow energy had completely enveloped the celestial, Sumu smiled, satisfied. He opened a portal and returned to his seaside villa. Everything was ready, except for the arrival of the celestial team. Instead of the Celestials, Tony Stark showed up a few days later. He looked rough, sporting scratches and a burned scar on his chest. After using a reversal spell to heal Tony, Sumu asked, "What happened to you?" Tony now wielded a blend of magic and tech, plus a symbiote. His nano-armor was almost complete. He was exponentially stronger than before, even giving the Hulk a run for his money. Plus, the Ancient One had said she would pass the title of Sorcerer Supreme to Tony when Sumu left, tasking him with protecting Earth until Doctor Strange was ready. She clearly thought Tony could hold down the fort for a few years, at least. So what had managed to injure him so badly? Tony sighed. "I was chilling at the villa a few days ago when I was ambushed by dozens of red-skinned guys. I managed to take them down with the nano-armor and a little magic, but not before taking a beating. Your healing power is amazing. I was fixed in seconds. And I'm pretty sure I broke a bone." Sumu just smiled. "Sounds like you ran into some extremis-enhanced soldiers." Tony was surprised. He hadn't mentioned extremis, but he immediately realized Sumu's foresight was at play. "He must have known about the extremis virus already," he said, with a hint of resentment. "You knew? And you didn't tell me? I could have avoided this. But you're fine, and you gained some valuable combat experience, right?" "True. Also, thanks to the symbiote and the eternal DNA you gave me, I've developed a brand new nano-armor." Tony tossed Sumu a high-tech bracelet. "This contains a compressed swarm of nanobots. They'll bond to your mind when you first wear it. After that, you can activate them with a thought. It's as strong as an Eternal's armor and has the regenerative ability of a symbiote. The only downside is the energy drain, but I doubt that's an issue for you." Sumu put on the bracelet. He focused his thoughts, and the fluid-like nanobot spread from his wrist, covering his entire body. His strength noticeably increased without even drawing on external power. The nanobots also shifted their appearance according to his desires, transforming into various styles of clothing. Sumu was impressed. After Tony left, Sumu turned his attention to his pocket dimension. As his power grew, even though the infinity spell was still level 4, its potential had been tapped more fully. His pocket dimension now spanned thousands of cubic meters. He suspected that if his template character ever exceeded the single universe limit and reached multiversal levels, the infinity stones wouldn't be able to further enhance his template integration. After careful thought, Sumu decided on his future path: create a universe. Starting with his pocket dimension, he'd build a real universe from the ground up. Focusing his consciousness within the empty pocket dimension, he activated the eternal flame, letting it float above the void. The scorching flame burned like a miniature sun, illuminating the space. The energy it released flowed in a complex pattern under Sumu's guidance. This was a barrier technique from Jujutsu Kaisen, supercharged by high-level energy, stabilizing the dimension and allowing it to expand. Next, the Casket of Ancient Winters was activated, generating intense cold at the bottom of the space, creating a layer of ice that formed land. Sumu also channeled the casket's energy, speeding up the growth of the pocket dimension. The contrasting energies of fire and ice, yin and yang, blended to create a basic world. Under Sumu's careful management, the dimension threatened to break apart, but ultimately stabilized. The casket and the flame continued to expand the space until it reached the size of a small town. Moreover, their energies blended, creating a higher quality energy. While less potent than the Infinity Stones, it had far more potential for future development, and this was just from the flame and the casket. What if he combined the Phoenix Force with other high-dimensional energies? That would create power exceeding the Infinity Stones. And Sumu knew he could achieve this. His intuition told him his current energy absorption and 6 eyes could already manipulate tiny fragments of the Phoenix Force. When those abilities reached higher levels, perhaps even LV8 or LV9, he could fully control those fragments and shape the pocket dimension into a true, infinite multiverse. He would become a power beyond the omnipotent universe. With the barrier technique solidifying the pocket dimension, Sumu paused and set a 5-year development plan. Point 1. Seek out treasures with limitless energy from across the multiverse and other realities to constantly improve the pocket dimension and evolve it into a pocket universe, even an omnipotent universe. 2. Acquire more energy and unlock new character panels. 3. Continuously train skills and improve skill levels. As the energy swirling in the air dissipated, Sumu was about to head to a party Tony was throwing when he sensed something and looked up. A giant, taller than a mountain, appeared on the horizon. Its body dwarfed the earth, radiating immense heat. Even beyond the range of his 6 eyes, Sumu could see the violent energy with his naked eye, emitting infinite power. This was the leader of the Celestials, Judge Arishem. P.S. Judge Arishem. At Kamatage, the Ancient One looked in Arishem's direction as he appeared, her eyes seeming to travel across time and space to see the towering giant outside Earth. Then she looked in another direction, to a white man also watching Arishem. Despite facing a universe-level powerhouse who had existed for countless years, there was no fear in his eyes. But the Ancient One knew that courage couldn't bridge the gap in power. She didn't know why Sumu hadn't left, but Arishem's arrival meant he was doomed. The disparity was too great, like a praying mantis challenging a car. The Ancient One sighed, her expression complex, lost in thought. In Asgard, Odin awoke from his slumber, sensing the terrifying energy surge. He saw the Celestial who had come to Earth and immediately knew why. It was the White Devil. Knowing this, Odin sighed. He didn't tell Thor, fearing he'd rush to help Asgard's benefactor at any cost. While Asgard was grateful to Sumu, they couldn't risk the entire kingdom to support him. He was responsible for tens of thousands of Asgardian civilians. That was the burden of a king, and the king's helplessness. In his youth, he had worn the destroyer armor in an attempt to fight the Celestials, but even then, he had been defeated. Now, the destroyer armor was destroyed, and his body was aging. He could only pray that the judge would find Sumu innocent. Unlike Odin and the Ancient One, Sumu looked at the towering giant with undisguised excitement. He slicked back his hair, forming a pompadour. 30-meter-long white wings unfurled from his back, amplifying his abilities. 3 infinity stones emerged from his pocket dimension, rotating around him, releasing intense energy, which he absorbed. Energy absorption LV5 bypassed his body's limitations, running at full throttle. Vectors swirled around Sumu, vibrating the space. With the precision granted by his 6 eyes, Sumu adjusted his state to perfection. Come on, Celestial, come and receive your gift. Chapter 95 God, Can You Bleed Too? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Arism showed up on Earth, colossal, nearly as big as the planet itself. From the ground, he looked like a vast canopy overhead. The moment he arrived, Arism sensed the Eternal's disappearance and, accessing Earth's data, quickly pieced together what had happened. He was stunned. The Eternals he'd sent to Earth, killed by a human, a mutant descendant. The Eternals' mission was to eliminate the remaining mutants and manage the human population to safeguard the nascent Celestials, to be killed by the offspring of their prey. The irony wasn't lost on him. Rarely did he get curious, but this Sumu, he'd be judged. With his power, Arism pinpointed Sumu's location instantly. Rings of energy materialized around Sumu, binding him, attempting to drag him toward Arism, but the black and red energy swirling around Sumu intensified, and a wave of repulsion, like a miniature supernova, erupted from him, obliterating everything nearby, even damaging the energy rings. Intrigued, Arism amplified the rings, now dozens of them, clamping down on Sumu. Even Sumu's LV4 reversal technique wouldn't be enough to handle the load. Yet, as a purple current pulsed outward, the rings, designed to withstand supernova-level impacts, crumbled, annihilated by this false mass. Sumu had finally gotten Arism's attention. Harnessing extreme repulsion and gravity to warp space, creating false mass, this is the precursor to matter creation itself. I'm curious, how did you acquire this power? Arism's voice boomed across the planet. He'd initially tried telepathy, but found Sumu's mind impenetrable, forcing him to broadcast aloud. Sumu, of course, wasn't aware of this. After breaking free, he propelled himself into space, facing Arism in the void. To the Celestial's question, Sumu replied coolly, talent and hard work. That's all it takes. Arism. He knew that talent and hard work alone couldn't account for what he was seeing. Did this guy think he was Franklin Richards? When Arism didn't respond, Sumu pressed on. So, how are you going to judge me? Life or death? The Celestial was silent. Obscure energy scanned Sumu, before a commanding voice echoed, the mutant ability you possess has significant value. Therefore, you will live. However, for killing the Eternals I sent to Earth and disrupting the new god's emergence, you will be punished. You will be transformed into a new Eternal, your memories wiped clean, replacing the fallen Eternals to oversee the new god's birth. But, as punishment, you will have no team, and you will spend an eternity alone. Undaunted, Sumu calmly retorted, what gives you the right to judge me? Arism stated, the Celestials maintain the order of the universe. We are its creators and guardians. Mortals may question, but they can never resist. Because Arism's words resonated everywhere, humanity knew what was going on, and the responses were divided. Most people, intimidated by Sumu, publicly supported him, hoping to avoid his wrath if he won. Social media exploded with comments like, go get him, man. You got this. This lame-ass god doesn't stand a chance. We're behind you all the way, bro. The White Devil is unstoppable. A smaller faction, staunchly opposed to Sumu, celebrated his impending doom. The White Devil is finished. The gods are here to judge him. The White Devil will die. Humans can't be defeated by mutants. Humans still rule this world. Mutants had their moment, but their day is over. Then there were the mutants, Sumu's most ardent supporters, especially after he decimated the military and the White House. Long live the Savior. Kill this clueless god. You're invincible. You'll lead us to dominance. But superhumans like Odin and the Sorcerer Supreme, aware of the Celestial's power, were far less optimistic. They watched Sumu with concern, wondering how he could possibly stand against an invincible god. Sumu, oblivious to the internet buzz, focused solely on the Celestial. His gift was itching to go. To Arism's condescending judgment, Sumu grinned and asked, what if I resist? You will suffer a more severe punishment. Sumu abandoned talk. The 3 infinity stones orbiting him glowed intensely, channeling boundless energy, pushing his power to new heights. He extended a finger, and a red and white singularity materialized, growing into a 10-meter supernova. The technique reverses H. The supernova launched towards Arism, its terrifying repulsion warping spacetime itself, creating visible ripples, yet Arism, facing an attack that would easily destroy any Eternal, merely flickered his consciousness, folding space, and instantly annihilating the supernova. He remained calm and indifferent as before. Futile resistance. Arism reached out, his mountain-sized hand reaching for Sumu, disrupting time and space around him. Only the system protecting his mind kept his thoughts intact and prevented him from being controlled. Odin and the Sorcerer Supreme could bear it no longer. They knew Arism would easily subdue Sumu and turn him into a mindless Eternal, but then, a colossal portal opened before Sumu, and an equally massive arm emerged, blocking Arism's strike. Before everyone's eyes, the portal widened, and a titan-sized figure, wreathed in magma, stepped through to face Arism alongside Sumu. Arism's tone, unchanged for millennia, finally shifted. "Humble mortal, you have interfered with a celestial's birth and taken control of him." Sumu scoffed. "What, you expected us to let him drain the earth dry and turn it into a lifeless husk? It is your honor to assist the celestial's birth and die for the celestial." To Arism's still patronizing tone, barely concealing his anger, Sumu smirked. "Screw you. My destiny is my own. I don't take orders." "I retract my judgment," Arism snarled, his anger now evident. "You deserve to die." Sumu ignored him, focusing instead on guiding the 3 cosmic stones towards the young celestial, finally embedding them in its forehead. "You." Arism recognized Sumu's plan immediately. He unleashed energy blasts to stop it, but he was too late. Empowered by the 3 infinity stones, the young celestial's weak life flared, a surge of energy flowing into its burning core, radiating intense light and heat. The larval celestial, barely the size of a child compared to Arism, swelled rapidly, growing to match Arism's size, an epic clash between creators. However, unlike Arism, the newborn celestial drew power from burning its life force, a short-term solution. It would soon burn out completely, returning its essence to the earth. Arism knew this. His voice crackled with barely suppressed rage. "Damned mortal! You have blasphemed a god. You used the Mind Stone to seize control, turning him into a weapon. You deserve to be extinguished." Sumu didn't reply. He only asked, "Gods, do they bleed?" Before the incredulous gaze of the Sorcerer Supreme, the horrified onlookers of Odin, and the fearful eyes of humanity, the 3 infinity stones erupted with blinding light, and Sumu dove into the celestial's head, completely taking control. Then, a supernova, the size of the moon, materialized in the newborn celestial's right hand, and he slammed it into Arism's face. Arism could no longer remain calm. He had to retreat, just to avoid the attack. Even he could not ignore such power. Arism braced his arm with immense energy and collided head-on with the new celestial, controlled by Sumu. The devastating shockwave ripped outward, obliterating everything in its path. The Sorcerer Supreme acted instantly. Teleporting to Asgard, she worked with Odin, who was in complete agreement. Using the Time Stone, they expanded the mirror dimension, pulling not just Sumu and Arism, but the entire solar system inside. They could not stop the 2 cosmic beings, but they could hide the solar system from the destruction of their battle. The energy spread in the distance, passing a planet and tearing its surface to shreds. The wave traveled faster, hitting Captain Marvel, sending her tumbling. Captain Marvel looked in the direction of Earth in shock. What happened there? At the same time, struck head-on by a moon-sized supernova, the celestial finally bled. Mystique changes roles, Part 4. Chapter 96: The Severely Injured God. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Arism's arm was busted, energy pouring out. The new god sucked it up the second it hit space. Sumu's new god was like an amplifier, juicing up his abilities. With that amplified energy absorption, the blood leaking from Arisam's wound got vacuumed up and turned into fuel to pump up its own strength. These two titans went at it, blasting the universe with energy and wrecking everything around them. Arisam folded space, turning it into a blade to slash at Sumu. But Sumu, with his reality-bending powers, could also play with space. He teleported behind Arisam and stabbed him in the back with a phantom dagger stretching for miles, but Arisam's senses were too sharp. He juiced up his own body with energy, delivering a haymaker the size of a small planet straight at Sumu. The force exploded against the new god's surface, but couldn't even scratch him. Controlling all vectors, Sumu created a vector axis, focusing all the forces into one point and blasting Arisam. The vector attack bypassed Arisam's defenses, punching mountain-sized holes right through his chest. Burning energy poured out, warping space around him. Arisam was hit. A god, wounded by a mortal. The injury healed fast, but Arisam was still furious. This was blasphemy, pure and simple. As the head honcho judge of the celestial crew, he'd never been treated like this. "You're gonna pay," Arisam snarled. This wasn't a high-minded judgment anymore, it was a personal vendetta. You could hear the rage dripping from his voice. He now saw Sumu as an equal and couldn't ignore him any longer. Judge Arisam unleashed a wave of power that could vaporize the solar system and then some. He warped spacetime, instantly clamping down on Sumu's powers. Under the crushing force, the new god's body started to break down. Then, a beam of energy, like a condensed star, shot from Arisam towards Sumu. Before, Arisam had looked down on Sumu, offering judgments but holding back his full power. Now, after getting hurt, he lost his cool and unloaded a fraction of his true strength. Facing the energy beam, Sumu had the new god rip open space, creating a planet-sized portal. Arisam's energy attack ripped through the portal and came out behind him, hitting him square in the back. But with no vector manipulation in play, the armor's brute force defense kicked in. Energy enough to destroy solar systems couldn't even dent Arisam. Watching the new god's body disintegrate, Arisam growled at Sumu. "I'm going to seal you in the cosmic abyss, where your soul will burn forever. You'll spend eternity in pain and torment. That's the price for messing with a god." "Sounds awful," Sumu muttered. "I really don't want that." "You don't have a choice." Arisam's energy was tearing apart the new god. Even with the boost from the Infinity Stones, it was no match for Arisam. Without the new god's power, the Infinity Stones' amplification, and his own crazy skills, Sumu could never have hurt Arisam. He knew that, this whole fight was just a stall, a setup for this moment. Seeing the new god's body about to fall apart, Sumu grinned at Arisam and said, "Gotta run, Judge. Next time we meet, it's gonna be a whole different ballgame. I'm going god-killing. But before I go, here's a little parting gift. Hope you like it." Arisam felt a chill. "You're not getting away, too late." Energy even wilder than before surged from the new god's body, and the 3 Infinity Stones blazed with light. Inside the new god's head, Sumu opened a portal, stepped through, bypassed layers of realities, and stepped into that special universe. Then, he stepped out again, vanishing from the Marvel multiverse, entering another equally epic one. Arisam lost Sumu completely. After countless eons, he finally understood the meaning of rage, but before he could rage for long, a massive explosion ripped through the new god's body right in front of him. It was a purple, unreal mass. Fueled by the Infinity Stones, amplified by the new god, and backed up by Sumu's skills, he'd sealed a planet-sized chunk of impossible energy inside the new god. Now it was blowing sky-high. The power was enough to rip through space, obliterating the void and even tearing open a path to a parallel universe. The blast wave spread, heading straight for the celestial. Arisam tried to jump away, but the surrounding space was too warped to escape. Then, the purple energy slammed into Arisam, shattering armor tougher than adamantium and exposing the energy being inside. Sumu. Sumu's name echoed through the universe with the force of the explosion. Almost every civilization heard the gods roar. The Skrull, Kree, Shi'ar, and other cosmic empires picked up the roar from the distant void. They were shaken to their core, their societies thrown into chaos. Who could possibly make a celestial that angry? They all locked onto the name Sumu, launching investigations to find out who he was. The Kree Empire was the first to uncover the truth. Thanks to Captain Marvel, they were already connected to Earth. Their leader, the Supreme Intelligence, was a supercomputer that could easily find most information in the universe, so, Sumu, who was already a big deal on Earth, was an easy find. An Earthling? No way. Even if he had some special abilities, there's no way he could make a celestial that mad. Could he have gotten way stronger? Strong enough to threaten a god? Is that why the Celestials care? What did this Sumu do to make a Celestial lose his mind? They had no idea that Sumu had controlled a new god. They'd never believe an Earthling could attack a Celestial, let alone hurt one. At Earth's coordinates, giant figures appeared in space. They stared at Judge Arisam, whose armor had already rebuilt itself. They were shocked. Infinity energy pulsed around them, betraying their mood. Arisam looked fine, but they weren't judging by appearances. They felt his energy. Arisam's energy was lower, even if only slightly. That meant he was injured. What happened? Why was their leader hurt? Had the 5 cosmic creators stepped in? Or had a perfect host for the Phoenix Force appeared? They didn't even suspect Odin. Even wearing the destroyer armor, Peak Odin couldn't hurt them. They'd swat him down like a fly. Skyfathers and single universe level beings were ants to them. Arisam talked to the other Celestials. We have a wild card on Earth. A being without multiverse isotopes. He controlled the newborn Celestial, using 3 infinity stones to attack me. I wasn't careful and got hit by a blast formed by repulsive and gravitational forces. Matter creation. Can this human actually create matter? One Celestial asked. Arisam answered, he can't yet, but he has potential. He could be the next Scarlet Witch, or even the next Franklin. That the Celestials went silent. Their new judge seemed certain, but who were Scarlet Witch and Franklin? The Scarlet Witch could warp reality on a massive scale. Franklin, who could create pocket universes when he was born, was even more powerful. If Sumu could reach that level, the members of the Celestials were shocked by this news. Arisam finally said. He is a molecule that will likely threaten the balance of the multiverse and the order we have worked so hard to establish. Find him and eliminate him. That the Celestials vanished from their location. The Ancient One and Odin were in Asgard, watching the Earth. When the Celestials disappeared, they finally relaxed. With Odin's help, the Ancient One returned the solar system from the mirror dimension to its place. Then, the 2 father-level figures went quiet. What had just happened had shocked them. Sumu actually hurt the Celestials and escaped. Incredible. P.S. Odin. Chapter 97 A New World. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Earth was thrown into chaos. The sudden disappearance of the giant god in space and the bizarre warping of reality had everyone scratching their heads. What just happened? Did the White Devil win or lose? Where did the god go? The internet exploded. Factions traded insults and theories. Some declared the White Devil victorious, a godslayer. Others insisted the god had dragged him down to hell. Still others believed both had perished in a mutual kill. Most people were just clueless ants. They couldn't understand what had transpired, didn't even know what gods were, or where they came from. They just drifted along, blindly confused. Sumu's vanishing act had a ripple effect. For one, the Mind Stone's influence dissolved, and its puppets snapped back to reality. Mystique huddled in a corner of her plush bed, trembling uncontrollably. The other Hollywood actresses stared, baffled. What was up with this shape-shifting woman the sponsor was so sweet on? As the Mind Stone's grip faded, Mystique's will returned. She was horrified to realize that she'd been bending over backward to serve her enemy, the monster who murdered Charles and manipulated Xavier's school for gifted youngsters. Her soul shuddered, and her mutant power flickered wildly out of control. On the helicarrier, S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were waking up from their induced slumber. Nick Fury, a scowl etched on his face, addressed Coulson in his office. "Coulson, do you think the White Devil's still alive?" Fury had just regained consciousness and was already barking orders to stabilize S.H.I.E.L.D. He couldn't wrap his head around what had just happened. S.H.I.E.L.D. had been a puppet of the White Devil. If he hadn't been obsessed with world domination, he could have easily taken over with the Mind Stone alone. Coulson paused, then replied. "Even the White Devil shouldn't survive an encounter with a god, but we need to prepare for the possibility of his return. And more importantly, we have to secure the Ark." Fury nodded. The White Devil's takeover of S.H.I.E.L.D. hadn't been all bad. They now had the means to create symbiotes and commanded a powerful army. More importantly, they knew about the Mad Titan lurking in the cosmos and possessed the Ark, a ship packed with Earth-based technology centuries ahead of its time. At Stark Tower, Tony Stark clutched his head, a conflicted expression on his face as he gazed at the sky. He, too, had been affected. He never would have befriended a mass-murdering maniac like the White Devil in his right mind, but the White Devil had also been a source of great help. The nano-armor, the magic he'd mastered, and the truth behind his parents' deaths were all gifts from the White Devil. His feelings were complicated. Meanwhile, Xavier's school for gifted youngsters was in chaos, the military was jumpy, and society was on edge, all because of the White Devil's disappearance. The entire planet was living in his shadow, whether they knew it or not. Unlike the chaotic Marvel Earth, Sumu, the source of it all, had been shunted to another multiverse through a cosmic transfer point. And the name of this multiverse was DC. Gotham, a city choked by darkness and sin, pulsed with a strange and unsettling energy under the cloak of night. A perpetual haze clung to the city, blocking out any sunlight and leaving it to fester in its own decay. Crimes and killings played out in the shadows, as usual. After all, maggots thrived in the darkness between skyscrapers, but tonight was destined to be different. An unexpected visitor had traversed countless dimensions and parallel worlds and landed in this sinkhole of sin. For anyone else, arriving in Gotham unannounced would be a tragedy, but this visitor was different. If anyone was going to have a bad night, it wasn't him, it was Gotham. Selina, light on her feet, moved across the rooftops like a cat, elegant and quick. Any nook or cranny could become her haven. With the agility of a cat, she was the best thief in the world, able to steal anything. Tonight's target was the treasure room of a small-time mob boss. His gang wasn't much to write home about, but he had a decent stash of jewelry from his legitimate business. He wasn't strong enough to retaliate effectively, and the payoff was worth the risk. The heist had gone off without a hitch. Her skills had gotten her a piece of jewelry she had been dying to add to her collection, and she had escaped unnoticed, but as she left the mob boss's mansion, an accident happened. Zzzzzzz. Sparks flew as a portal materialized out of thin air before a stunned Catwoman Selina, and a white-haired young man stepped through and stared right at her. What the hell? A wizard? Ever since she'd been resurrected, Selina had known there were strange forces at play in the world, but seeing one in action was still a shock. Selina's rough childhood had made her suspicious and insecure. As soon as the white-haired man appeared, she went into full fight-or-flight mode. "Who are you? Why are you here? How did you do that?" She fired off a string of questions, finally grabbing Sumu's attention. "Where is this place?" Sumu asked, his eyes fixed on the beautiful woman before him. After arriving, he'd surveyed his surroundings with his 6 eyes and made some educated guesses about the state of this universe. He just needed confirmation. "This is Gotham, a crime-ridden pit. If you stumbled in here by accident, I suggest you leave. It's not safe." "Gotham, huh? Sounds like the right place." Sumu didn't react to the woman's warning. How dangerous could Gotham be? Could it be more dangerous than the Celestials? He smiled at the woman. "I don't think so. I just got done fighting a giant the size of a planet. I think he was probably more dangerous than Gotham." Seeing the girl's skeptical glare, Sumu chuckled, but didn't elaborate. "Have you heard of Iron Man and Captain America?" Selina gave the man a deadpan look. He was clearly delusional, talking about fighting planet-sized giants. Who was he kidding? Even though she'd written him off as a loon, the way he'd appeared was too strange. She didn't want any trouble, so she replied, "Aren't they from Marvel Comics?" Marvel Comics? So this is the DC universe. I just hope it's the movie version, or at least something close to it. After a moment, Sumu turned his attention to the girl, who was edging away. "I'm new in town and a little lost. Could you put me up for a while? I'll pay you handsomely, of course." Selena was ready to refuse instantly. This guy was clearly a crazy, unreliable mage, which meant he was nothing but trouble. She needed to get as far away from him as possible. But then the man produced a fistful of priceless jewels and gold, and Selena froze. Her body seemed to move on its own, her eyes glued to the riches as she nodded furiously. Okay. You can stay as long as you like." After a quick exchange with the girl, Sumu couldn't help but marvel at his luck. The first person he met in the DC universe was Catwoman. She was obviously just starting out, she'd only recently gotten her powers and hadn't yet adopted her signature catsuit. That's why he hadn't recognized her right away, because of the generous amount of jewelry. Catwoman Selena gave Sumu her room while she crashed in the living room. Once he was alone, Sumu checked his current status, he opened the system panel, and a flood of information appeared. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Energy point +1. Template fusion degree, 47%. You have unlocked a new skill, Unknown Wings Colorless. Unknown Wings Colorless LV1. 1 out of 100 manipulate the phase power in space to form an advanced version of colorless wings, which greatly enhances the user's strength. During the battle with Aletham, Sumu had absorbed vast amounts of energy from the god and the Infinity Stones, earning him a significant number of energy points. He'd poured all those points into template fusion, pushing it to 47%, and because the template fusion had broken 40%, Sumu had unlocked a new skill, Unknown Wings Colorless. On top of that, the continuous use of his various skills in the battles had boosted their experience points, resulting in another skill upgrade. Virtual Style Experience +1. Congratulations, your virtual skill has been upgraded. Virtual Style LV3, 1/1000 overlap the homeopathic spell Tsang and the reverse spell He to form an imaginary mass, releasing energy waves that can cut space, allowing for fine manipulation of the imaginary mass. P.S. Gotham. Chapter 98 A very capable cat lady secretary. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After Xing, the virtual form, hit level 3, its power skyrocketed, and controlling the imaginary mass became way easier for Sumu. Level 3 let him pull off seriously precise moves. Back at level 2, Xing was only good for the basics, like morphing a sphere into a bar, which was supposed to be a sword, but looked more like a clunky club. Now, Sumu could nail the sword shape perfectly, even etching designs on the blade. He could even thin Xing into lines as fine as a millimeter for stealthy cuts, plus, he had control over Xing's power. Before, it was always maxed out. Now, he could let it touch stuff without blowing it to smithereens. The upgrade to Xing was a game changer for Sumu. Basically, every skill upgrade past level 3 was going to be a major power boost, but even with the skill improvements, Sumu still needed to level up his template fusion. Like yesterday, templates were his foundation. They gave him access to more skills, and once the fusion hit 100%, he'd fully master those skills and ditch the system restrictions for good. More importantly, if the next template was a Scion one that could blow up planets, his power would jump to a whole new level, way easier than grinding skills and XP. Lost in thought, Sumu was suddenly interrupted when a knockout figure strolled in, wrapped in a towel. Usually, she'd change into pajamas in the bedroom, but tonight was different. She'd forgotten they had company. They locked eyes, and Sumu shamelessly ogled the view. Gotta hand it to Catwoman, she's got it going on. Even Catwoman felt uneasy under the gaze of a total stranger. If he wasn't her sugar daddy with a mysterious background, she might have already knocked him out, but, not knowing who this guy was, the cautious Catwoman wasn't about to throw the first punch. P.S. Catwoman, this ain't your average damsel in distress. And let's be real, there's no such thing as an average girl in Gotham, especially not when you're talking about Catwoman. Selina glared at Sumu, tugged the towel up a bit, and snapped, "Sir, are you done staring?" Anyone else would have looked away and apologized. But Sumu. He did what he wanted. Dude was shameless. Instead of apologizing, he kept right on checking her out. Not even close. A view like that is hard to look away from. Seeing that Catwoman wasn't going ballistic, Sumu knew the jewelry he'd brought from the Marvel Universe was working its magic. This cat couldn't resist shiny things. You. Catwoman started to say something, but Sumu cut her off. I just landed in this universe and I'm looking for a right-hand man. How about being my secretary? Catwoman shot him down without hesitation. No way. I'm a free agent. I don't work for anyone. But then she spotted the jewels in Sumu's hand and her mouth snapped shut. Seeing her eyes light up, Sumu flashed a devilish grin, pulled out even more jewelry, and piled it in her hands. It glittered under the light. You sure? This is just 1 month's pay. And on top of this, I might even give you power. In Gotham, or anywhere, power is everything. Behind Sumu, the symbiote writhed like hungry tentacles, eager to wrap around Catwoman. In the end, Catwoman bought what Sumu was selling and took the symbiote's power. Smart move, really. It wasn't like Sumu wouldn't have taken control by force anyway. He wasn't some gentleman, but a slimy handsome man who wants a sexy secretary to do secretary things. That's what Sumu had always dreamed of, and if she didn't like it, well, desperate times, desperate measures. Sumu chilled for a few days, trying to figure out the timeline. His new secretary was a real go-getter. Not only was she hot, but she was efficient. Whether she was helping Sumu relax or digging up intel, Catwoman was a real asset. She even tracked down a few important dates. Catwoman's info was similar to what Sumu knew from the movies, but with some differences. This universe was a parallel one, pretty close to the movie versions. Batman was doing his thing in Gotham, scaring the crap out of criminals, and villains like the Joker and Penguin were starting to make a splash, becoming frenemies, and all that. Superheroes from other cities were popping up too, like Aquaman in that seaside town, Flash in Central City, and Wonder Woman, who'd seen action back in the day. Sumu was most interested in Superman. There wasn't much info on him, and no Black Zero incident. Which meant Superman hadn't gone public yet and Zod hadn't invaded. This got Sumu hyped. Kryptonians could soak up serious energy from the yellow sun. Snag a few of those guys, and he'd have unlimited power, but that was a plan B. Kryptonians weren't easy to handle, especially if they fought back. Even if Sumu was stronger, he didn't want to babysit a bunch of superpowered brick houses, so, his main goal was those 3 mother boxes on Earth. Those alien devices could do a lot of things, including transfer energy, which could constantly juice him up. They weren't infinity stones, but they packed a punch. They would be Sumu's main power source in the DC universe. Right now, the mother boxes were under the watch of different groups: humans, the Atlanteans, and the Amazons on Paradise Island. The portal was suppressed due to multiverse energy, so it couldn't open doors like it was supposed to. Besides the portal, his other powers were also acting weird but adapting fast, so his overall combat ability was still strong. Catwoman, hooked up with the symbiote, had been buzzing around, gathering info. Her new abilities were a major upgrade. She couldn't go toe-to-toe with Superman, but she could probably handle the current Aquaman. As for Batman, if it's a scheduled fight, then Sumu wouldn't fight him. It's known that he never loses. As Catwoman kept digging, Sumu finally caught a break. Catwoman snuggled up to him, purring like a cat, cheeks flushed from the afterglow. Even though her new boss had been working her hard on these investigations, she really had nothing to complain about. First off, he was crazy generous with the jewels. He just tossed them around like they were nothing, burying them in her cleavage. Second, he gave her power. Catwoman was agile, but still limited. After merging with the symbiote, she was like a whole new person. She had the power she never had as a little girl. Third, he was loaded and took care of her needs. She was addicted to the constant peaks. If she didn't have to work, she would never leave the bedroom, Catwoman softly reported to Sumu. I found Lois Lane and confirmed she's heading to the boonies to interview Clark. But no luck on Cyborg. And no sign of Paradise Island. But I did confirm there's a guy in Sicily who lives underwater. Locals call him Aquaman. I think that's your guy. Good work. Sumu kept up the good work as he figured out his next move. Lois was getting ready to interview Clark. So, Superman's origin story was about to unfold. This couldn't be missed. It was the perfect time to snag a Kryptonian. As for Cyborg, no surprise there. He might not even be Cyborg yet. Or he might be hiding. Either way, he was a tough find. If he wanted a mother box, Atlantis was the place to start. What about an Atlantean uprising? The devil didn't care. Chapter 99 Kryptonian Battery. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A few days later, a NASA emergency satellite picked up a strange signal from Elsmith, prompting an investigation. Soldiers dispatched to the North Pole discovered an alien spacecraft. The landscape was a vast, white, desolate world, perpetually covered in ice and snow. The place was barely habitable. Even with heating, the risk of freezing to death was constant, but now, something buried deep within this icy wasteland had drawn outside attention. American soldiers had set up camp nearby, determined to uncover the nature of the massive object beneath the glacier. Inside a tent, despite the constant hum of the heater, the cold still gnawed. Yet, the occupants were engrossed in their work. Their curiosity about what lay beneath the ice drove them to ignore the chill, excitedly discussing possibilities. Just then, Lois Lane, a woman tough enough to go toe-to-toe with superhumans, arrived at the camp to meet with the soldiers. She was a force to be reckoned with. She faced down a colonel without flinching, even managing to get Colonel Hardy, the man in charge, to concede to her. Lois Lane entered the lab, joining Dr. Amy Hamilton and Colonel Hardy as a staff member explained. The ice shelves are interfering with our detection, but there's definitely something down there. The ice surrounding it is nearly 20,000 years old. That the revelation sparked disbelief. Humanity at that time was still primitive, unable to even thrive in today's environment, let alone construct something of that magnitude. Could these be traces of aliens, or perhaps ruins of a forgotten civilization? Lois Lane's eyes sparkled with excitement. She knew this was a major discovery. As night fell, the cold intensified. Though instructed to stay put, Lois Lane, never one to be easily controlled, defied orders. Braving the frigid wind, she ventured out with her camera, only to spot a figure walking in the distance. Intrigued, she followed, only to be knocked down by a robot. A mysterious man then appeared and destroyed the robot. The man was peculiar. He wore only a tattered white sweater in the sub-zero temperatures, yet seemed unaffected by the cold. Lois Lane felt a surge of fear. Stranded out here, she was completely vulnerable. After falling, gasping and screaming, it was over. Clark, however, acted responsible. Even though Lois Lane was bleeding because of him, he took care of her, stopping the bleeding and safely escorting her back, her hair a mess. Soon after, the spacecraft launched and vanished. Lois Lane, saved by Superman, was found lying in the glacier and rescued by a helicopter. For now, everything seemed to be over. But unbeknownst to them, the signals from the spacecraft had alerted terrifying alien forces to Earth's existence, setting the stage for a bloody cosmic invasion. Meanwhile, back in Gotham, Sumu continued his rigorous training. His priority was to enhance his 6 eyes. As its level increased, he'd gain finer energy control and analytical abilities, allowing him to adapt faster to the energies of different worlds and restore the portal's ability to travel anywhere at will. The system notifications kept popping up. 6 eyes experience +1. 6 eyes experience +1. 6 eyes experience +1. Finally, with Selina's intense climax, the 6 eyes leveled up. 6 eyes experience +1. Congratulations. Your skill 6 eyes has been upgraded. 6 eyes LV5, 1/20,000 grants 360-degree long-range vision, the ability to see energy flow, amazing dynamic vision, and perspective, allowing for absolutely precise energy manipulation and even the ability to ignore the law of energy conservation to reduce energy consumption. A flood of information surged into Su-Mu's mind. Holding Selena's sweaty body close, he absorbed the memories, discovering his own advancements. His visualization range had expanded tenfold. At LV4, the 6 eyes provided a clear view up to 10 kilometers and a blurred view up to 100 kilometers. Now, at LV5, the clear view reached 100 kilometers and the blurred view extended to 1000 kilometers. Furthermore, the 6 eyes' abilities and vision could now be enhanced with energy. Injecting a large amount of energy could expand the field of vision even further. Most importantly, the 6 eyes possessed a new feature. Similar to the world of Jujutsu Kaisen, 6 eyes could enable the host to release spells with almost no unnecessary energy loss, dramatically improving endurance. This trait allowed Gojo Satoru to use domain expansion multiple times a day with minimal energy depletion, while Su-Mu's energy reserves vastly exceeded Gojo Satoru's. Even the LV3 6 eyes, equivalent to Gojo's, couldn't achieve near zero energy loss. Only the LV4 6 eyes, after further upgrades, could accomplish this, but after upgrading again, the 6 eyes had undergone qualitative changes once again. The 6 eyes could not only use all of Su-Mu's energy and skills without unnecessary loss, but could even reduce the energy value originally required by the skills. On the surface, this seems like this, but in fact, this ability has reached the level of cause and effect. This also means that Su-Mu's skills will permanently reduce part of the consumption, but the power of the skills can achieve the original effect. This does not comply with the law of conservation of energy. Su-Mu held high expectations for this feature, but the 6 eyes at level 5 had such terrifying features, so what kind of features would they have when the 6 eyes reach a higher level? As the level of the 6 eyes increased, would it reach a point where you could use unlimited skills without consuming energy? Wait a minute. While holding Selena as she cleaned up spilled milk, Su-Mu spotted a humanoid figure flying at high speed within his extended field of vision. He focused energy into the 6 eyes, clarifying the figure's appearance. Sunlight streamed down, constantly interacting with his body, strengthening his muscles and senses, seemingly without end. This figure, shouting and disturbing the peace, was Superman, Clark. He appeared to be experiencing flight using a bioforce field for the first time, visibly excited. Seeing Su-Mu lost in thought, Selena felt a pang of jealousy. She pouted, placing Su-Mu's hand on her chest, hoping to regain his attention. "Boss, what are you thinking about?" Selena purred, her voice seductive and playful, but her attempt was futile. Su-Mu had lost all interest in physical activity, his mind consumed by his discovery. Superman had his suit and could fly. He knew the timeline. General Zod and the others were imminent. The Black Zero event was about to unfold, and his pawns were about to arrive. Su-Mu pinched Selena's cheek, then, seeing milk on her face, kissed her forehead instead. "Selena, I'll make it up to you later. We have something to do." Selena was disappointed, but knew better than to argue. "What is it?" she asked. "We're catching aliens to use as batteries." Kryptonians agreed. Selena blinked. A few days after Su-Mu's Superman sighting, a spacecraft descended, hacking into global networks. Static flickered across every screen. A shadowy figure materialized, calling out for Kal-El and threatening Earth's destruction unless he surrendered. To protect Earth, Clark cooperated with the military and boarded the Kryptonian ship. There, he uncovered General Zod's plan to transform Earth's environment to suit Kryptonian life. If that happened, all humans would perish, unable to adapt. Clark couldn't allow it. He and Lois Lane escaped back to Earth, but upon their return, Clark learned that the Kryptonians had kidnapped his mother. He immediately soared into the sky, heading for his mother. He clashed with General Zod, shattering his helmet and overwhelming his senses, forcing him to retreat. However, several Kryptonians remained, including the deputy commander, Pharaoh. The American army arrived, but their weapons were useless against the Kryptonians. Bullets and missiles bounced off, leaving Superman to face them alone. Outnumbered, Superman was struggling. The general watched the reports, despair setting in. Was humanity doomed? Then, he spotted two figures walking calmly toward the battlefield in the satellite footage. They moved as if on a leisurely stroll, unfazed by explosions or stray bullets. Soldier, focus the camera on them. Who are they? Sumu approached the battlefield, the nanosymbiote on his body shaping his favorite white-sleeved shirt. He donned nanorobot sunglasses and glanced at Selena, who sported a matching nanosymbiote coat. Kryptonians rampaged, destroying everything in sight. Human technology was utterly defenseless. Selena hesitated. Boss, can we really capture these Kryptonians? They're like monsters. Sumu eyed the Kryptonians with undisguised greed, wiping imaginary saliva from his lips. Selena, have some faith. The nanosymbiote in you now possesses part of my power. You can take on regular Kryptonians. Sumu tapped Selena's chest, transferring energy to the symbiote and fully activating it. You have 20 minutes, but that's plenty. Go, Catwoman. A surge of power coursed through her, eliciting a soft moan. She clenched her fist, reveling in the strength, dozens of times greater than before. The Kryptonians, once so fast, now seemed slow. Their power, once terrifying, was now nothing. She kissed Sumu, then vanished, appearing instantly before Farol and knocking her away with a single punch. Wow, so cool, she exclaimed, gazing at her fist with elation. P.S. Superman. Chapter 100 The Bat That Masters the Power of Millions of Stars. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Even though Catwoman was incredibly fast, the surveillance satellite still caught her knocking Fiona aside. Seeing the Kryptonian, who missiles couldn't even phase, get taken down by this woman, the general asked his officers, who is this woman? His soldiers, well trained as they were, ran Selena's image through their databases and instantly pulled up her profile. Sir, she's Catwoman. She's a superhuman who's been operating in Gotham recently, a bit of a mixed bag, good and bad. According to the intel, she's not much different from a regular human, just more agile, like a cat. We're not sure why she's suddenly so powerful. Suddenly so powerful? The general muttered. He then shifted his gaze to the man walking, step by step, toward the other Kryptonian. Could it be him? The soldier's next words confirmed his suspicions. Sir, we can't find any information on that man. Not even similar profiles. It's like he's not from Earth. Clark was in the middle of a brutal fight with the Kryptonian. He'd never faced an enemy with similar strength before. Past battles had been won with brute force, pure and simple. Because of that, he lacked combat experience and relied on instinct alone. Now, he was getting his butt kicked by two Kryptonians. They fought dirty, targeting his weak points, and poor Clark was getting hit hard. The male Kryptonian seemed jealous of Clark's size and kept aiming for the groin. After several blows, even through the armor, it was obvious that little Clark was really swollen. Seeing the damage, Fiora instinctively clamped her legs shut, even weakening her attacks. She was a large woman, but the male Kryptonian was even bigger. If she didn't regain her focus, she would be charmed by him. Just as Clark was taking a beating, a figure appeared and punched Fiora away. She was even faster than Fiora. The punch hit Fiora square in the chest, turning her flat chest into a canyon. Even the Kryptonian's rapid healing couldn't close the gap quickly enough. Looking at the woman in front of her, wrapped in two large breasts, Fiora felt like she was going to explode. The valley in her chest returned to normal and became larger, achieving a qualitative breakthrough from nothing to something. She looked at the woman with jealousy. Wouldn't those be heavy? Wouldn't they be a hindrance in battle? That she truly had no talent for fighting. She snarled at Selena, so this planet does have strong people. At least you are. But you're still too weak to beat me. After the brief exchange, Fiora realized that this Earth woman was also inexperienced. Even though her speed and strength were greater, Fiora was confident she could win with her superior combat experience. Selena puffed out her chest and looked down at Fiora's barren chest with disdain. It was obvious who was better. After Sumu's enhancements, Selena's already formidable strength had increased. Now, she was a terrifying E-level powerhouse. Fiora's measly A's were no match for her. Just relying on your two A's. Selena said. After being boosted by the boss, she was full of confidence. You bitch. I'll tear your mouth apart and chop those useless pieces of meat off. Fiora's defenses crumbled instantly. This was the pain of her life, and Selena's taunt only deepened it. She flew into a rage and attacked, but the moment they clashed, Fiora was sent flying. Why is your body so strong? Who are you? Fiora asked, stunned. Under the refined control of his 6 eyes and energy absorption, no symbiote could absorb the ability in Sumu's body, but as long as he actively stored part of his ability in the symbiote could use it. However, due to his overpowered ability, the symbiote cannot bear a large amount of information and can only store a small part of a skill. However, under the energy enhancement of Sumu, the symbiote can briefly exert most of Sumu's power. The symbiote that coexisted with Selena now had LV5 energy absorption. Even if the full power of the LV5 symbiote couldn't be unleashed, it was enough to crush these newly arrived Kryptonians. Selena absorbed the surrounding energy, sunlight and kinetic energy alike. Fiora's attacks couldn't hurt her, but Selena's power easily broke through Fiora's defenses. Poor Fiora was inferior in size and strength. Clark was still fighting the other Kryptonian warrior. Without Fiora's help, the Kryptonian was slowly losing. In a moment of inattention, the Kryptonian punched Clark away. He rolled across the ground, carving a trench in his wake, until he stopped at Sumu's feet. He immediately got up and warned Sumu, "Get out of here. It's too dangerous." He braced himself for the Kryptonian's attack, but before he could retaliate, the warrior suddenly flew backward, crashing through dozens of houses and burying himself in the rubble. He didn't move. Clark dove to the side and turned to see what had happened. He immediately noticed something was off. His X-ray vision didn't work on the man standing before him. It was as if the man's body was made entirely of lead. "Are you from Earth?" Clark asked hesitantly. Sumu's clothes transformed, becoming Batman's suit. He spoke in a deep voice. "You're the one who attracted these Kryptonian invaders." Taken aback by the sudden accusation, Superman said nothing. The man was right. "Who are you?" Under the influence of energy absorption, the surrounding sunlight dimmed. Sumu seemed shrouded in darkness, a ghost in the night, stripping away the Kryptonian source of power. He was mysterious and imposing, calm and restrained, like a cold-blooded bat, a hunter in the night. Sumu's voice was deeper than ever. "I am the Dark Knight who protects the world. I am Batman. Clark Kent, I know who you are. You drew these invaders here. I hope this doesn't happen again." Clark stared at Batman in shock. He knew of Batman, the hero of Gotham, and respected him for his non-lethal approach. He was also a pacifist, but in his mind, Batman was just a regular human with peak physical conditioning. He may have had some high-tech gadgets, but he wasn't superhuman. Reading Clark's thoughts, the man, resembling Batman, said, "Your vision is too limited. There are many ways to gain power. One is a special type of kryptonite called platinum kryptonite. It can turn ordinary people into Kryptonians. But I just used technology. I drank a super soldier serum with the power of 1,000,000 stars, and I can unleash that power." Clark was dumbstruck. Kryptonian power came from the yellow sun. How powerful would someone be with the power of 1,000,000 stars? Sumu ignored Superman and walked towards the Kryptonian struggling to get up. "Clark, I'll clean up this mess for you, but I don't want a repeat performance." Sumu disappeared in an instant and reappeared in front of the Kryptonian, moving faster than Clark could follow. It was teleportation, after all. Sumu smiled at the Kryptonian warrior, raised his foot, and slammed it down. Cracks spread for hundreds of yards with the Kryptonian as the epicenter. The ground sank several feet. The Kryptonian's eyes rolled back as he went into shock. Sumu wasn't satisfied. He increased the power and kicked again. The sounds of bones breaking and earth shattering filled the air. The Kryptonian, who had been evenly matched with Clark, was now unconscious. Barely breathing, it seemed. Sumu nodded in satisfaction and slowly dragged the Kryptonian away. Selena had defeated Fiora and joined him. She was thrilled. She loved the feel of bare-knuckle fighting. And she knew where that power came from. She ran to Sumu, kissed his fake butt and chin, and asked, "Boss, how'd I do?" The kitten's face flushed red. Sumu glanced at Clark one last time, said, "You ain't seen nothin' yet," opened a portal, and disappeared from the town. Clark stared at the portal and the two defeated Kryptonians. Is that the power of 1,000,000 stars? It's terrifying, that the events in Smallville were broadcast live. The Kryptonians' defeat was met with cheers. The appearance of Batman and Catwoman generated a huge amount of buzz. "Oh my God, Batman is so cool. I've never admired someone so much." "Yeah, and Catwoman's got an amazing figure. Looking at that alien broad, you can't help but feel jealous. I never expected Batman to be so powerful. I always thought he was just a regular guy." "Me too. But after seeing that, I believe it. Batman's the real god on Earth." On a tree-lined hillside, a luxurious manor sat nestled among the trees. This was Wayne Manor, home to Gotham's richest man and Batman himself. In the kitchen, Bruce Wayne stood motionless with a spoon in his hand, staring at the TV. He'd been like that for several minutes. His butler, Alfred, was the same. They both stared blankly at the news reports. Bruce Wayne could only think one thing: if he's Batman, then who am I? Alfred looked at Bruce strangely. He hesitated, then said, "Master, I'm not a mole. You can tell me anything." Bruce Wayne choked on his food. He looked at his butler in disbelief. "Alfred, I haven't been to Gotham lately. That's not me. Someone's pretending to be me." P.S. Catwoman, Part 2.